Now we're going to take a look at replacing the A board onto the machine. If you take a look at the back of the plugs, towards the bottom, in the black plate you can see that there are two plugs in there. That is where our white and our black plugs coming from our machine socket and the transformer are going to go into. Now usually both plugs on the bottom are white, but you can tell where the black one goes because there is a black stripe. So first, take the white plug, and we're going to take it and we're going to put it up over part of the cover and feed it down. And very gently plug this in. Take your time when you're doing this because this is going to be a little bit harder. It's a little bit tighter of an area to work in. So we get that white plug lined up nicely. And when we have it lined up nicely, push down on it to make sure it's in all the way. And we're going to take our black plug, which does not run up over part of that cover. It just runs straight towards the black part, which you can tell by the black stripe where it goes. And once again, very gently plug it in. Now we're going to take our motor, which does come up over that cover, runs down, and we have to make sure that we plug this in nice and gently. Always start with these three plugs, because if you forget about it, it's going to be a lot harder to plug them in later. Pretty much every other plug just plugs in on the left or the right hand side. So make sure you get those three plugs started first. Now we're going to take the rest of our plugs and we're going to start on the right hand side of the board. We have our feed step motor and our zigzag motor that we plug in. And we're going to make sure they're lined up nicely and push down to make sure they're plugged in all the way. Now we're going to continue to put the rest of the plugs back into the A board. Usually, once you start on a side, don't skip a plug. Always find that plug that goes in and start from the bottom and work your way up. Usually what happens if a person skips a plug, they forget about it, they put the whole machine back together, and then they have to take it apart again to double check their plugs. So always take your time and go from plug to plug, checking to make sure that they're in correctly. Now that we have the right side done, we're going to go to the left side of the A board. And once again, we're going to start towards the bottom. Make sure that it's in nicely. And we'll start moving towards the top. Put the black one in, followed by the white. And we'll take our bobbin winder plug and plug that in towards the top. Now we're going to line the A board up. We're going to take our three screws and we're going to put them back to hold the A board into position. Now when you're screwing in, always check the plugs and the wires as you're doing this. Make sure there's no wires in the way of the screws, because if you go through you will pinch them and you will end up blowing the board. So always take your time when doing this and check to see if everything is routed nicely behind the A board. Now hold the A board and try to look at it and make sure that it is straight, and make sure that it's screwed in all the way. If it was crooked, you could have a problem when you put the front panel on. The front panel could hit into the buttons and it would cause the buttons to change by themselves. We'll take the wires, make sure they're routed nicely on the top and they're towards the machine, and double check everything to make sure it's nice. Now we're going to take our motor belt and we're going to put it around the either unit on the DC motor at the bottom and slip it up around the hand wheel. I'll check the motor, make sure it's nice, make sure there's no wires by it, and the hand wheel turns nicely. Now we're going to take our front panel, plug our front panel in so we can check our needle position. It is better to do this instead of having to put everything together, then testing it, and then if it was wrong, having to take everything apart again. So just plug the two wires, or the two plugs coming from the front panel, into the top of your A board. We're going to grab the power plug and put the power plug into the machine socket, and we're going to turn on the machine. When we turn on the machine, everything should initialize: the zigzag motor and the feed step motor. And we're going to use the needle up-down button on the front panel, and we're going to test the needle position. So bring the needle down, make sure that it comes up to the proper position. One thing you can do is pull down the threader and check it to see if it's going to line up. So we can see that we might have to make a small adjustment here. So we're going to grab our 2mm, loosen the screw, and just gently turn it and tighten it back up again. And we test it, and we see that we went the wrong way. So once again, take your 2mm hex driver, loosen the screw at the top, turn it this time towards you, and very gently, always gently tighten that screw. If you tighten it too hard, it will crack. And now we'll test needle up and down again. Move the threader down, and everything lines up nicely. So we'll turn off the machine. Now we're going to get ready to put the front panel on. So first you have to make sure that you move the front panel over the motor belt and put its little mounting behind the screw. Now that we have the front panel on, we're going to test the buttons to make sure that they're lined up properly. So you can push on them, and you can see that the front panel is not interfering.